Getting paper on these player haters, old news, money on the other line, so I'm not gonna hold you. Money on the other line, so I'm not gonna.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of I'm Not Gonna Hold You, Season 3, Episode 18, man. We got a special Friday edition of the show, man. You were watching the stream yesterday and it cut off after like a minute. We had some technical difficulties, man, but we are here on Friday instead of Thursday. Next week, there will be no show because, of course, there's no NFL. The NBA will be on the All-Star break. Won't be getting back started up till the actual day, Thursday, that we usually record. So we're going to take a 1 week break next week and be back the week after that to get you ready for this, last quarter of the NBA season. But we got a lot to get into today, man. But, of course, I am your host, Scott. You know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarbChairScott. You know to follow this great media network this show is on, HMB Media, at HMB Media TV on Twitter and at HMB Media on Instagram. Also, follow the other great media company that this show is on, my company, the Barbers Chair Network, at Barbers Chair Net on Twitter and Instagram. Visit thebcnet.com and subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network, man. We're going to be back next week. We didn't really drop anything on the Patreon this week, mainly because I've been under the weather. I've had a cold for almost about a week. Just got out the house yesterday for the first time in like a week. So, if it sounds like I'm a little under the weather still, I apologize. But next week we'll be back. We're going to have 2 episodes of Cinema with the Guys. One, me and Dante break it down. The last 2 episodes of BMF. And another one, me and my brother Flows, we breaking down Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which I saw last night. It was a pretty good movie, so we're going to break that down. And, of course, Summer Sessions. We'll be back next week. So look all in tune for that. So we appreciate everybody who subscribes to the Patreon. Once again, that's patreon.com/Barbers Chair Network, man. It is Friday, February. I said October. Friday, February 17th. It's the first day of All-Star Weekend. Today is the Rising Stars Challenge. Tomorrow will be the dunk contest, and the actual game will be on Sunday, man. But before we get into any NBA talk, I just want to talk about the Super Bowl, man. We are a couple days removed from Super Bowl 57. The Kansas City Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions for the second time in 4 seasons. But I want to start this off with my sound off. My sound off is on probably the number one talking point since the conclusion of the Super Bowl on Sunday night is the no call. The holding call in the end zone between Bradbury and Juju Smith-Schuster, which basically gave Kansas City the game. Now, there was a big-ass debate, not just on Twitter, but all through local and national media of should that have been called. And I remember when the actual call happened, I was upset because as a fan, and I think everybody who wasn't an Eagles or a Eagles or a Chiefs fan, or especially if you're an Eagles fan, was like, this is one of the greatest Super Bowls we've ever seen. It was a shootout. You were getting some good defensive plays, and you just didn't want the game to end like that. So I was upset about that, saying you could have, let it fly. Same thing I thought 2 weeks ago at the AFC Championship game when they called the unnecessary roughness penalty when Patrick Mahomes slid out of bounds, and that eventually gave the game-winning field goal for the Chiefs. Now, since then, my opinion has changed after I watched it a couple more times, and I feel like, yes, from an entertainment standpoint, yes, I would have loved for it to be a no call. You wanted to see, if Jalen Hurts could respond to a field goal. Could he send into overtime? We haven't had the new overtime rules all postseason. Or could he take the lead and give the Eagles their second championship in 5 years? But at the end of the day, it was a hold. It was a hold. And I think the biggest issue here is the NFL hasn't really had a standard of excellence or like a pattern of making good calls. And if they would have called something like that in the games more frequently, then I don't think people would have had that big of an issue with it. And Bradbury did come out and say he did hold Smith-Schuster. So it's pretty much just, took away anybody who said he didn't hold him. It's a call. And it's a call to call. The referees, they have to do their jobs and call that there, whether it was entertaining or not. But the thing is, overall, referees have to be more consistent and better with their job so that doesn't become something that's the focal point of conversation. And we should be talking about the great game that happened between the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes, and a guy who I think solidified himself as a top 5 quarterback in this league right now, Jalen Hurts. That should be the conversation, not a blown call. So I wrapped this sound off by saying it was a controversial call. It was a call that as fans we probably wished Didn't happen, but at the end of the day, it was the right call. So let's get into the rundown, man. Let's start off with the one and only Patrick Mahomes the second. He is a Super Bowl champion for the second time in his young career. He is also Super Bowl MVP for the second time in his career. He is the first MVP in the NFL to win the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP in the same year they've won the MVP since 1999. The one and only Hall of Famer Kurt Warner. So that is a crazy stat that even I didn't think about. He is only the third quarterback in NFL history to win multiple Super Bowls, multiple Super Bowl MVPs, and multiple league MVPs. He joins the elite class in the GOAT Tom Brady and a guy who I consider the second greatest quarterback of all time, Mr. Joe Cool, Joe Montana. So he's in the elite class already with those two. And right now it's time to talk about a word that we love to talk about in sports media, legacy. And I think that after this performance and the trajectory that he's on, God forbid, Patrick Mahomes gets hit by a bus today. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He will be in Canton with some of the greatest Hall of Famers, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But I think this guy solidified a spot for himself in the football mount, in the quarterback Mount Rushmore. Now, for me personally, he moved in my top three. He passed Aaron Rodgers, thank God. He passed Peyton Manning, in my opinion. And I think if you have Peyton over him, I'm not going to argue with him. Peyton does have more MVPs than him, but you got to look at it like this. He already has more Super Bowl MVPs than Peyton. He's got 2 Super Bowls quicker than Peyton. Peyton didn't win his first till 2006. Unfortunately, it was the worst night of my life when he beat my Chicago Bears, which was his, I think his 8th season in the league, and he didn't get his second one till his last season in the NFL, which he basically got carried to. Let's just keep it a buck. That Denver Broncos defense won that game. That's why Von Miller was Super Bowl MVP and not Peyton Manning. He's already got 2 rings, and every year that he's been a starter, he has been in the AFC Championship game. This kid does not know what playing, what losing in the first and second round feels like. This kid has never played a road playoff game. In fact, this Super Bowl this week was the first time he actually wore a white jersey in the postseason. And if you put all that together and all the accomplishments that he's had already, I got to put him over because he's just going to get better. He's just going to accomplish more. And to me, this guy, the only thing that he's ahead of, only people ahead of him are Tom Brady and Joe Montana. And I want to put a little respect on Joe Montana real quick because I do feel like when we talk about these quarterback debates, a lot of people disrespect Joe Montana. And I feel like in sports conversation with a lot of people, we like to neglect things that happened prior to the year 2000, prior to the new millennium. And I think that's disrespectful. Joe Montana was the GOAT, honestly, to me, until Tom Brady came back 28-3 on the Atlanta Falcons. That, to me, is what solidified him. This is a guy 4-0 in the Super Bowl. He's never lost Super Bowl. This is a guy who had one of the toughest roads to the Super Bowl ever. This is a guy who is yet to throw an interception in the Super Bowl. This guy has scored the most points in the Super Bowl. To this day, nobody scored 55 points. And this is a guy who's been to just a whole decade of playoff performances. And even he went to Kansas City in the end of his career and took that team to an AFC Championship game. So you got to put some respect on Joe Cool, and we all know about Tom Brady. But now that Tom Brady is officially retired, there's a number now. The number set, 7 championships for everybody to go that everybody's trying to chase, especially Patrick Mahomes. Now, I'm not going to say that Patrick Mahomes is going to get 7 championships. We went past 7 championships. 7 championships is nuts, and it's something we've never seen before. I don't even think he's on the 7 championship radar till he gets to number 4. I mean, we got to think of Tom Brady. Tom Brady won 3 very quickly. Tom Brady was a 3-time Super Bowl champion by the age of 27, which is Patrick Mahomes' age right now. Won 3 out of 4 years, had a back-to-back, and he went a whole ass decade without winning one. So you got to put that into effect too. There's going to come a time where he doesn't win. There might be a drought. There's other great quarterbacks in the NFL, especially in this conference, like the Joe Burrows, the Josh Allens, the Justin Herberts, the Lamar Jacksons. You got a guy like Trevor Lawrence who's on the come up. So somebody's eventually going to get him. But I do think he's on a path to now he's really just boxing with the greats now. I don't think there's anybody in his class that he's worried about, that he's battling with. He's in a tier by himself. And now that Tom Brady is officially retired, he is the official face of the NFL, man. And to me, he is at worst on the football Mount Rushmore, quarterback Mount Rushmore. Let me clarify that, not football Mount Rushmore, because then you have to go through all different positions and it gets real tricky. He's on a quarterback Mount Rushmore. On my list, he's number 3. And to me, just for him to be there in his 27th year of age, I think is incredible. And he's done it with multiple rosters. And this is a roster that wasn't as talented as the one he won with back in 2019. You know, a lot of people thought that, you know, how is he going to be able to bounce back without a Tyreek Hill? He went out there and won it with these wide receivers who, you know, I won't say they're trash, obviously not, but they're not the best core wide receivers that he's had. And Travis Kelce's still around. Andy Reid's still around. He's putting himself in position to win more Super Bowls, period, man. So I think the legacy of Patrick Mahomes has been sealed, and the sky's the limit now here from Pat, man. So let's talk about the next word we've been hearing this week. I apologize for my coughing, but dynasty. A dynasty for the Chiefs. Are the Kansas City Chiefs the new dynasty in the NFL? I'm going to say no. And this is my take on dynasty. Now, I do think they have a great chance to win it, to be a dynasty. I think if they win the championship next year, they will be a dynasty. Now, I think we need to clarify what exactly a dynasty is. To me, a dynasty is you win 3 championships within at least a 5-year span. At least 5-year span. And out of those 3-year championships, you have to have at least one back-to-back. I don't think there's a lot of dynasties in the history of sports. And I think people like to just give them away because it's a cool word. No, dynasty means domination. If you didn't repeat, you didn't dominate shit, you know, because then you're switching back and forth. You have to at least get a repeat. If we go through the annals of the major sports in America, which is the NBA, the NFL, and Major League Baseball. If you look at the Major League Baseball, I honestly only think there's one true dynasty in Major League Baseball, and that is the New York Yankees. You have the 20s Yankees, which was a dynasty, and the 90s Yankees, which was a dynasty. They won 3 championships out of 4 years. In fact, they fucking three-peated. Like, they won World Series in 98, 99, and 2000. You were never going to see that in Major League Baseball ever again. Those, and then, of course, they won like 4 or 5 in a row in the 20s. That is the only franchise to me that can be considered a dynasty. Now, you can say, what about the San Francisco Giants run in the late 2010s? They were a great team, but you got to have some semblance of domination. They won 3 World Series championships in a 5-year span, but they didn't go back-to-back. They only did not go back-to-back. They didn't make the playoffs in back-to-back years. So you can't win a championship, miss the playoffs, win a championship, miss the playoffs, and be considered a dynasty. There's no standard of consistency there for you to be considered a dynasty. That's why I don't consider them one. Now we move over to the NBA. And the NBA has more dynasties. Now, to me, the NBA only has, I think, 5, if I recall correctly in my head. You got Bill Russell's Celtics in the 60s. They won 8 in a row. You've got the Showtime Lakers in the 80s. They won 5 championships in 9 years, and they had a back-to-back where they won 2 out of 3 from 85, 87, and 88. So that's the Showtime Lakers. They're a dynasty. Of course, the 90s Bulls are a dynasty, winning 6 championships in 8 years. The Kobe Shaq Lakers are a dynasty. They won 3 in a row. And then the next one I have to get to will be the Steph Curry Golden State Warriors, where they won 3 championships out of 5 years, with one being a back-to-back. Now, of course, you're going to ask me, what about the Spurs? Spurs, to me, are a great, great team, a real standard of excellence. 5 championships in 15 seasons. Having said all of that, go back to the repeat thing. There's no repeat. There's no repeat there, man. You have to have a repeat, in my personal opinion. They're a very, very great team, but I don't consider them a dynasty. Now we go back to the NFL, who I consider who's a dynasty. We're just going off Super Bowl championships, not NFL championships. Because if you're doing NFL championships, then you got to include the Packers in there, and you got to include the Bears in there. I'm not going to include the Packers and Bears. The Bears have 11 championships. If you include the Super Bowl and NFL championships, we're not going to count those. We're only counting the Super Bowl era. I would say the Steel Curtain Steelers in the 70s, that's a dynasty. The 80s 49ers, that's a dynasty. The 90s Dallas Cowboys, that's a dynasty. And more recently, the New England Patriots are a dynasty. So I feel the Kansas City Chiefs, if they can win next year, and that's their 3rd Super Bowl in 5 seasons and a back-to-back, Signed, sealed, delivered. They're the new dynasty. But I just feel like we live in a age now where we want to call something the greatest right away. And I feel like greatness takes time. Greatness has to be a sustained, prolonged excellence, which is what we haven't seen that much. That's why they're dynasties, because you don't see them a lot. And I feel like if they take advantage, if they do that next year, and I feel like if I had some money to bet right now, I would bet good money on them repeat next year. They're officially in the Tom Brady Patriot tier of I don't give a damn what other roster the teams have. They have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid. They automatically have the upper hand. Because if you look at the Super Bowl, you can arguably say, the Eagles had the better roster. Matter of fact, the Eagles were the better team for 2.5 quarters. But they have Patrick Mahomes. They have Andy Reid, a guy who I feel has elevated himself into the greatest coaches of all time conversation. So if they're able to go out there and win again next year, give it to them, dynasty. But we just need to be more selective when it comes to giving out a phrase like that. So now let's go over to the losing team, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you're an Eagles fan, of course you should be disappointed. You lost. But it's not the end of the world. Your team won the championship just 5 years ago, which is great. You're back in it, and you basically did a rebuild on the fly. You had your quarterback who you thought was a quarterback of the future in Carson Wentz. He ended up being a dummy brick. You were able to rebound very quickly. You got Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had one of the best one-year leaps I've ever seen. This is a guy that a year ago, everybody and mama was calling him anything but a child of God. Philadelphia Eagles fans, media, everybody. I didn't even know if he was going to be an elite thrower. But he came in, not only did he become an elite thrower, he just became an overall superstar, man. And you saw that full on display in this game. I mean, if you want to be real, he was the best quarterback on the field if you want to talk about statistic-wise. Jalen Hurts, 27 of 38 passing, 304 yards, 1 passing touchdown, 15 carries, 70 yards rushing, and 3 rushing touchdowns. That's 4 total touchdowns. Only mistake he made was letting go of the ball in the second quarter, a fumble, which eventually led to a Kansas City Chiefs score. So, of course, you got to hold that against them because that's a 7-point swing, and the Eagles end up losing that game by 3. If he holds on to that ball, maybe they go down the field, put up more points, and they eventually win the game. But if you're an Eagles fan, you should be happy about the future that you have because Jalen Hurts has arrived. Jalen Hurts is a superstar. If there was any other doubt about this kid, those doubts should stop. He went out there and, yeah, he had great runs. And I know the thing you hear about black quarterbacks, you hear with Lamar Jackson, you hear with Jalen, you hear with Justin. Oh, they just run. I don't understand why running is such a crime. We are in a new era of football where if you're a dual threat quarterback, that's the one that's going to majority win. And the narrative of a dual threat quarterback can't win needs to fucking stop. Yes, they didn't win the actual championship, but he made it to the Super Bowl. This is the second dual threat quarterback we've seen in just the last 7 years to make it. Can't forget about Cam Newton. Cam won the damn MVP in 2015. Shit, Jalen Hurts should have been the MVP this year if he didn't get hurt the last quarter of the season. So I think he's great. I think the Eagles team is in fantastic position. Howie Roseman is a great GM. This team just lost Super Bowl, and they're going to have a top 5 pick in the NFL draft this year because of a trade they made with the New Orleans Saints. They're in a great position. And if you look at the NFC is a JV league. It's a JV league. We don't know what the Rams are going to look like next year. You know, they're not going to be the same team. We don't know what Matthew Stafford's going to look like coming off injury. He's getting over. Tom Brady's gone. Aaron Rodgers might be playing. Aaron Rodgers either might be retired or going to the AFC. Who else is a threat? I mean, I'm done talking about the fucking Cowboys. You know, there's nothing else to say about the Cowboys. If you have any type of, optimism for that should be shot down. There's no equal for him. And I know Bears fans say, well, Justin can be one. Yeah, Justin can be one. He's not there yet. The Bears and Justin have a long road ahead of them to be considered even on Jalen Hurts and the Eagles' radar. They have a long road before they can get to that point. So as right now, Jalen Hurts has no equal in the NFC. Now, of course, it's tough to get to the Super Bowl again. The NFL is a year-to-year league. You can be straight up ass one year and be great next year. I mean, Jalen showed himself. He looked like he might be out of the league last year. He looked like maybe the Eagles should draft a quarterback. And now he's already solidified himself. So yes, you should be disappointed you lost, but the Eagles have a bright future. You got your guy, and in this sport, in this league, if you got a quarterback, that is 80% of the battle, man. So I feel like salute to Jalen Hurts. I enjoy watching him. I know Eagles fans enjoy watching him, and he's gonna have a long career there. And this will not be the last time you see this kid in the Super Bowl, man. So salute to Jalen Hurts. Let's talk about, we're getting into the NFL offseason now, man. The combine starts in about a week in Indianapolis. So the start of draft season, official legal tampering starts in about 3 weeks, and official start of the new season for free agency and things like that. So I got my top 5 off-season storylines that I will be looking forward to coming into this offseason. Now, over the last 2-3 seasons, we've really seen the NFL become a year-to-year league, something that the NBA has had on lock. And really, this is kind of like the biggest fear for the NBA. You never want the NFL to be a league year, but now it's like Super Bowl's over. We're already in draft mode. So here's my top 5. Number 5, I want to know, are there going to be any more all-pro wide receivers that are going to change teams? Last year, we had 2 all-pro receivers change teams, and Tyreek Hill going from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Miami Dolphins. And, of course, the unexpected trade. Well, actually, both of those were unexpected. Really unexpected. Devontae Adams going from the Green Bay Packers to the Las Vegas Raiders. Are we going to see that again this year? A lot of question marks about where DeAndre Hopkins is going to go. The rumor is that the Cardinals are going to either trade him or release him. So is he going to be on another team? Could he go to a contender? You know, he was flirting around with the Chiefs on Twitter the other day. Could he go to Kansas City? That would be scary. If you hate Patrick Mahomes, you do not want to see D-Hop with Patrick Mahomes. Is he going to go there? Is he going to go to LA, play with Matthew Stafford? Could he go to a younger team? Could the Bears throw a 4th rounder and pair him up with Justin? You never know. And then you got something where Mike Evans, now that Tom Brady's gone, is Mike Evans going to be on the prowl? Is Chris Godwin going to be on the prowl? There's a lot of wide receivers out here. I'm looking at T. Higgins. You know, with everybody wondering what's going to happen, we all know that Joe Burrow is going to get a massive, massive contract this offseason. Jamar Chase is on deck to get an extension. Now, we all know, I know that they've been winning lately. The Cincinnati Bengals are still a cheap-ass organization, and when you have a quarterback, when you pay your franchise quarterback, you're basically rebuilding again, because that takes away a lot of assets that you have, a lot of money to spend on other things that you need on the team. So it's going to be a casualty, and that casualty is probably going to be T. Higgins. Now, are they going to just, roll with it and trade him this year? Or are they going to wait to see what it's like next year? We all can't forget about A.J. Brown, another all-pro wide receiver who got traded during the draft last year. Nobody thought the Tennessee Titans would trade him to the Eagles. So that's going to be the three things that I'm looking at. Could Newt go somewhere? Could Mike Evans go somewhere? Could T. Higgins go somewhere, man? So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen with the pro wide receiver market, man. Number 4, the mid-quarterback market. Now, we over here talking about superstar wide receivers, Super Bowl superstar quarterbacks. There's only like 5 superstar quarterbacks. Then you got your mid-tier. And the thing about the NFL is, the unfortunate thing is, if you have even a halfway decent quarterback, you got to pay him. So now that goes to the market of a Derek Carr, a Jimmy G, and even like a Daniel Jones, who's going to be a free agent this year. The thing I'm looking at is Derek Carr is officially a free agent. By the way, shout out to Derek Carr. Shout out to Derek Carr, because I love petty shit. And the Raiders thought they were going to tell a guy who's been extremely loyal to their franchise, say whatever you want to say about Derek Carr. He is a hard worker, and he has been loyal to that franchise. And they just threw this man down the street, told this nigga after Christmas, you should stay home. Don't even come back. We're going to give you a flight. You go home. We're going to see what you got in Stidham over here. You know what you got in Stidham, sorry ass. And they did him completely bogus. And they thought that they were going to get draft compensation for Derek Carr. And Derek Carr was like, you know what? I have a no trade clause, so fuck you. I like the Saints, but if I want to go to the Saints, you're not going to get anything. So guess what? I'm going to give you an ultimatum. Either you release me or you pay me $40 million next year. Of course, the Raiders aren't going to pay him $40 million. They don't plan to start him. So they released him this week. He's already beginning his free agent, meetings. Of course, he still has interest with the Saints. There's been Falcons rumors. He's supposed to be meeting with the Jets. So he's going to be a guy on the mid QB market who's going to be interesting. I think he's going to get a lot of money because he's an okay quarterback. And okay quarterbacks are going to get a lot of money. Now we go to an okay quarterback who's actually been to a Super Bowl, Jimmy Garoppolo. Of course, he's not going back to San Francisco. It's pretty much been decided there's going to be a quarterback competition in training camp between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. So that situation is done. Where is Jimmy G going to go? Jimmy G is a guy who's been to a Super Bowl. Jimmy G is a guy who already has 2 Super Bowl rings. Now, granted, he's backing up Tom Brady, and me and you can get a Super Bowl ring backing up Tom Brady. But he's a guy who, Jimmy G's good. He's a good quarterback. He's not bad. He's not great. But he's good enough for you to win. And if you're a QB-needy team, like the Jets, like the Falcons, like the Bucks, you can go out there and see what you can give him. So I'm interested to see where these 2 guys are going to go. And also, Daniel Jones, who I think is Huff. You don't trust quarterbacks from a basketball college. And he went to Duke. I understand he had a good game against the Minnesota Vikings. But the Minnesota Vikings are a terrible fucking defense. Now, I do like they hired Brian Flores. Good job of him getting a defensive coordinator job. I think that'll help them a lot. But they were ass this year. And he just took advantage of that. He's not a good quarterback. The man only had 15 passing touchdowns. I mean, and he played every damn game. And he had a good offensive line. So, what's going to happen? Are they going to franchise tag him, or are they going to actually give him $30 million a year? So, that's going to be something interesting to me, too. The mid-market is going to set, the mid-quarterback market is going to set a lot of things in motion for other guys, man. And that leads me to my number 3 storyline. There's no football player on this planet that I hate more than Aaron Rodgers. I just don't like this guy. But Aaron Rodgers is on this little dark retreat right now where he's holed up in some fucking rock in some part of America with no internet, no phone, and, doing yoga and trying to figure out what his next fucking move is. And he said when he comes out of the 4 days of darkness, he's going to figure out what he's going to do. I'm so tired of this clown and all this theatrics. And then when he does shit like this, and he goes on Pat McAfee and says, well, I don't understand why people are so worried about what I'm doing. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know exactly what you're doing. You're being attention seeking. But I digress. What's going to happen to Aaron Rodgers? Kind of seems like from things that Ian Rappaport is saying, things that Adam Schefter is saying, things that Packer beat writers are saying, that the Packers want to get them the fuck out of here. They're on the hook for, I think it's $45 million next season. They got to figure out what the hell they got in Jordan Love. Jordan Love is going to be entering his 5th year. You got to see what you're going to do. You already didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so you're going to let him walk. You got to see what you're going to get. And I feel that one of 2 things is going to happen. I do not believe that he will be a Green Bay Packer. I do believe that my 16-season nightmare will finally end within the next 6 weeks. I think he'll be on a different team. I think they're going to trade him, get some decent assets. I don't know how much you're going to get for him because there's a huge cap hit, and he's also like 37 years old. So they'll be able to get maybe 2nd, 3rd rounder, but I don't think they're going to need anything like a 1st. So after the Aaron Rodgers market is going to hold up the Jimmy G, Carr, Daniel Jones market, because whoever gets Aaron Rodgers is going to be scrambling to get a quarterback, and they're going to overpay one of those 3. So that's going to be number 3. Number 2, what's going to happen to Lamar Jackson? What is going to happen to Lamar Jackson? Now, the Baltimore Ravens just hired a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken. He was from Georgia. The thing that's been making a lot of news is the Ravens did not consult him at all in the process of hiring Monken to be their offensive coordinator. Now, the rumors are that they're going to franchise tag him, but is it going to be an exclusive franchise tag? Is it going to be a tag where they're going to allow him to negotiate with other teams and to facilitate a trade? We still don't really know what's going to happen here. And this is another thing where when I look at the mid-quarterback market, I just named Jimmy G and Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. Lamar Jackson is also with Aaron Rodgers. Well, we got to see what's going to happen with these 2 before those 3 get their money. And I personally feel that Lamar Jackson will be back in some capacity. I wouldn't be shocked if they traded him. I think it would be unbelievably stupid. I think they just need to give the kid his money. Now, it's kind of like the Roquan Smith situation where Lamar doesn't have an agent. So it's a little bit harder to negotiate when a player doesn't have an agent. But a lot of teams waiting to see if that situation is going to hit the fan pretty much. But I think he's going to come back to the Ravens. So that's my number 2. But number 1, is my team. All eyes on the beloved. All eyes are on the Chicago Bears. They have the number 1 draft pick. They hold the keys to everything in this offseason. They have the number 1 cap space in the NFL. Ryan Poles has a big job in front of him. But more than anything, Bears fans, I tell you this. Number 1, have realistic expectations. I think there's a lot of Bears fans out there who act like this is a 1-year job, and then next year this team is going to be a Super Bowl contender. No. This team has so many fucking holes. I believe they're good 2 to 3 seasons away from being a legit Super Bowl contender. Now, the NFC is the JV league, like I said earlier. And I do feel like Ryan Poles has to have a good enough offseason to where this team can contend for one of those final 2 wildcard spots. You got to be able to get you 8 or 9 wins next season. Having said all that, Bears fans, I see a little trade mocks. I mean, a little draft mocks, your trades. A lot of them are trash. Just be realistic when it comes to these expectations, man. The Bears have a floor of like $225 million. Now, that includes new signings and also extensions for current players. So, there's going to be some overpaying. Let's just keep it a buck. There's going to be some players who are going to be making more money than they probably should be. I don't want to hear about overpaying for a couple of reasons. One, they have to spend the money. League rules, they have to spend the money. Number 2, when you're a bad team like the Bears, and let's be very clear, if the Bears don't have the worst roster in football, they have a bottom of 3 roster in football, you're going to have to overpay certain players to come in. Like if you want a DeAndre Hopkins to come in, if DeAndre Hopkins is going to forego going to a contender, because DeAndre Hopkins does have a no-trade clause, you're going to have to pay him a little something to get him to convince him to come play with a young up-and-coming team. So that's going to be happening. But also, the number 1 thing for me, and I hope Justin Fields is paying attention to, I'm pretty sure Ryan Poles has briefed him on this. There's going to be a lot of conversation over the next 2 months about the Bears trading Justin Fields. Let's be very clear. I cover this thing. I'm not just saying this as a fan. I cover this thing. I actually have sources now. I've come a long way. I actually have sources now. When I say I'm not going to put a 0% chance, because nothing is 0% chance in life, 0.01% chance that the Bears trade Justin Fields. But you have to give the impression that you're going to at least look at Bryce Young to raise the price of the brick. Now, I know Jim Irsay, when they announced the new coach this week, the owner of the Colts, basically was showing his hand, basically saying he would give up whatever he got to give up to get Bryce Young. I understand that. You want to have a bidding war between the Colts and the Texans to get that price up so you can get you as many picks possible. You know what I'm saying? So there's going to come a time now, I believe, over the next month and a half, where Bryce Young visits Hallis Hall for a workout. And there's going to be a lot of national media, maybe even some local media, who are going to be like, well, the Bears are actually looking at Bryce Young. The Bears might trade Justin Fields. Don't feed into it. They have to get the price up. This is something that happens. That's like the curse part of them getting this number one draft pick, is you got to hear all these things about a guy who we all think is the one. And I like Bryce Young. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't know how great he's going to be. He's fucking small as shit. But this is just something that's going to be a number one story going through. And the Bears have the keys, man. And really, they have the path to everything in the offseason goes to Chicago. And it's up on Ryan Poles to not just save the Bears, save Chicago sports. Chicago sports is in the dumps right now. Chicago Cubs and Chicago White Sox probably on pace for 77 win seasons. Going to be a lot of mediocre baseball on the north and the south side. The Chicago Bulls are a disgrace. I don't even want to talk about them. The Chicago Sky, welcome to hell. They done lost Candace Parker. They done lost Vandersloot. They done lost everybody. They back in the projects too. And I don't even recognize the Chicago Blackhawks anymore. Honestly, free Jonathan Taves, free Patrick Kane. Let them go to different teams, man, because it's an abomination. You got 2 god-awful teams in the United Center right now. So the Bears got to stay Chicago sports, man. So that's my number one observation. What the Bears going to do this offseason, man. So that's all I got for NFL. Let's move on to the NBA, man. Of course, it is All-Star Weekend in Utah. I have zero hype for this weekend. Main reason being a lot of superstars aren't playing. Steph Curry's not going to play. Kevin Durant's not going to play. Zion Williams is not going to play. Now, I don't consider this kid a superstar, but he's a star. Jalen Brown's not going to play. We don't know if DeMar DeRozan is going to play because he has a hip injury. So it's not a lot of star power. Number two, it's in fucking Salt Lake City. Now, I'm going to show some coastal elitism here. I don't believe that the All-Star game should be hosted in a cold weather city that's not named New York or Chicago. Keep that shit out of Salt Lake. And even worse is y'all having Karl Malone, who should be in prison, not in a fucking NBA arena, hosting a dunk contest. He should be in prison hosting a dunk contest. I mean, being a judge for a dunk contest. Now they're going to have every conversation about the nasty shit this man has done in his life instead of the game. Bad move, Adam Silver. But let's talk about the fallout that's happened since the trade deadline last week, man. Of course, we know the big deals that the Mavericks made, big deals that the Suns made, and the big deals the Lakers made. Now, the Lakers are 1-2 since the trade deadline. Yes, they lost to they beat the Warriors, lost to the Blazers, and then beat the Pelicans the other night. The Lakers had their full healthy squad with the new trade acquisitions on Tuesday against the Pelicans, or Wednesday against Pelicans. They looked really damn good. LeBron looked good as usual. Anthony Davis actually looked good, 28 and 10. And they got great contributions, 21 points for D'Angelo Russell. Malik Beasley looked good. Jared Vanderbilt looked good. They really look like an actual team for the first time. And I really like these deals that Rob Pelinka made. Problem being here, I think it's too late. I think if these trades are made in December, you can sell me on them making a run and being a legit championship contender. But it just happened too late. They're a game and a half behind just the 12th seed. They're about 3 games behind making the play-in. And I think they got to win like 14 to 15 of their last 25 games to even have a shot to make the play-in. Now, they could go on a hot streak, but they're playing the number one toughest schedule remaining in basketball. And this is a team that's not been a model of consistency at all this season. And on top of that, the last couple games they lost, 2 of the last 3 games they lost were against teams that are in front of them. And a lot of these upcoming games are against teams that are in front of them. It's not only do they have to go on a hot streak, they got to hold the 5 teams in front of them lose. And I just don't know if they have enough to do that in such a short span. But big picture-wise, I think this is going to work even for next season. I don't think they're going to have the cap space to sign a Kyrie Irving because they traded Russell Westbrook, and that pretty much eliminated the cap space they were going to be able to keep. And there's already been conversations going on with the Lakers and D'Angelo Russell about an extension. I think this is something they can build on going to next season to where they have this full complement of players to be able to compete. But I just think it's too late for them right now. Now, the Mavericks are 2-3 since the Kyrie Irving trade. They're tied for 6th in the Western Conference. They've looked pretty good. They've lost 3 in a row. Of course, the last game they played against Jokic and the Nuggets, Kyrie Irving did not play. But I think the thing about the Mavericks that stood out to me is that, yes, defensively, they're not good. They're not a good defensive team. But good luck trying to guard those 2 dudes in Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. It's going to be a headache for so many defenses. And this is a team that, they had some issues against the Sacramento game, not knowing who to get a ball to. And that's going to come with time, with chemistry between these 2. But I think it's a really good trade for them in the short term. I don't know if Kyrie Irving's going to resign. I'm done guessing what Kyrie's going to do, but I do think it's a good move. And so far, at least the offense has looked good on the court, man. And let's talk about Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was introduced to the public yesterday at a press conference. I never seen a press conference with fans, about 1,000 fans in the Phoenix Suns arena to announce KD. KD should be returning a little after the All-Star break. They didn't give it a date, but some Phoenix Suns beat writers are expecting that it'll probably be on the 24th of February at home against the team that drafted Kevin Durant, Oklahoma City Thunder, or the Seattle Supersonics was really drafting him. So I think that's, they just signed Terrence Ross at this buyout with the Orlando Magic. I think this team, even though they lost last night to the Clippers, when healthy, with KD, I think they're favorite. Like I said last week, I think they're the favorite. They're going to be tough to beat. I think it's going to be a team that's really fun. And the good thing for them is they've been playing well these last couple weeks, even without KD. and they moved themselves into that top 5. They were number 4 before they lost to the Clippers last night. I think with KD, they're just going to move right up. So I'm interested to see how that's going to be over the next couple weeks, man. And then got to talk about Russell Westbrook to close this out. Russell Westbrook was involved in that Laker trade. He is still a member of the Utah Jazz right now. He still hasn't decided whether or not he's going to be bought out. He's got a lot of options. The Jazz kept it real with him, like, yo, we're not going to play you. We're playing a lot of our young players. But they have all agreed to a buyout if he wants to do that. They have given him permission to talk to other teams. The 3 teams that were mentioned were the Miami Heat, the Chicago Bulls, and the Los Angeles Clippers. But it kind of sounds like he might be a Los Angeles Clipper this time next week. He has been talking. Him and his agent have been talking to the Clippers front office. And they're still weighing some things out. And we all know everybody in the Clippers wants him. We've heard Paul George vocally say he wants him. We've heard, Norman Powell, everybody. Everybody on the team pretty much wants him there. And I think that this would be a good fit for him because, of course, he's from Los Angeles. He doesn't have to move. He can kind of go to the other team, rub it in Laker fans' face, and be the team that's actually going to make the playoffs. And I think that this will be a good situation for us. Like I said last week and what I've been saying before, I don't believe that Russell Westbrook just became a bad player. I think it was just a bad situation for him just because of the fit with him and LeBron. Him and LeBron are both ball-dominant guys, and it just didn't work there. I think in a situation with the Clippers where they need a point guard, take some stress off Kawhi Leonard, who's been absolutely balling, and take some stress off Paul George, and now they got shooters around him. I think that'll help, and I think that'd be a good look for him if he does sign with the Clippers, man. So that's something to keep an eye on, man. But we're going to wrap this up with my power rankings. Didn't do one last week, but we'll do them now. My top 10 power rankings. Number 10, I'm going to go with the Minnesota Timberwolves. The T-Wolves moving to the top 6. They've gone from play-in to being in the actual playoffs as the playoffs are today. They're 6-4 in their last 10. Anthony Edwards is doing his thing. He will be in the All-Star game this week as he will be a reserve. I think he's replacing Zion. So got them at number 10. Number 9 is the Memphis Grizzlies. The Grizzlies have not been playing well, but they got a nice blowout win the other night against Utah. Ja looked good. And it's a team, and it's a 10-team list, and I couldn't justify putting a team like the Wizards on here over them. So I'm going to put the Memphis Grizzlies at number 9. Number 8, never thought I'd say this. I'm actually impressed with what I'm watching in New York. I'm impressed with what I'm watching with the New York Knicks. The Knicks are moving to the top 6. They have surpassed the Miami Heat. They've won 3 in a row, 6-4 in their last 10. Julius Randle will be representing them. I think that it was straight up robbery that Jalen Brunson would not be in the All-Star game. He's been hooping. And the addition of Josh Hart has been incredible. He's been pairing up with his former teammate, college teammate, Jalen Brunson. They've looked really good. And I really like the Knicks got going on over there, man. Number 7, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They had a tough loss to the Philadelphia 76ers the other night, but they are 8-2 in their last 10. And they are in the top 5 in the East. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Number 6, the team they lost to, the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers have won 4 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. They're number 4 seed. Embiid is doing his thing as usual. And it's the same thing with them. They look good in the regular season, but what they're going to do come playoff time. But this is a regular season list. So I'm going to put the Sixers at number 6. Number 5, they're actually, I had them as 5th in the West right here, but I did these notes yesterday. They are now 4th in the West with that win last night over the Phoenix Suns. They're 7 and they're 7-3 in their last 10. And Kawhi Leonard absolutely balling. He's averaging 28 points in his last 16 games. It's good to see Kawhi healthy. You forget that because he's been hurt so much. Then when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the NBA, and he's showing that right now. And with the new additions they got, Mason Plumlee, Eric Gordon, Bones Highland, I really love all 3 of those moves. They paid off pretty good in the Thursday night win. The Tuesday night win over the Golden State Warriors. I think the Clippers, if they stay healthy, they've got a legit shot. So I'm going to put them at number 5. Number 4 is the number 1 team in the West right now. They're running away with it, man. They really don't have anything to play for right now. I feel like they're just like tuning up for the playoffs. The Denver Nuggets, led by a guy who might be the MVP for the 3rd year in a row. Might get our first 3-time in a row MVP since Larry Bird in the 80s. The Denver Nuggets have won 3 in a row, 7-3 in their last 10. Not too much more to say about them. Number 3 is actually a team that lost last night. But like I said, they've been playing well. Phoenix Suns, 7-4 in their last 11 games. They're number 5 seed right now. You can just imagine that's going to get higher with the return to Kevin Durant within the next week or two. Number 2, Boston Celtics, 7-3 in their last 10. They just made Joe Mazzulla the full-time coach. He's no longer, temporary coach. Of course, the whole fallout with Ime Udoka. And even though they lost a close game in Milwaukee, they showed me a lot of fight by even being in that game and sending that game to overtime with no Jason Tatum and no Jalen Brown, man. So I'm going to put the Boston Celtics at number 2. But not my number 1 team right now is the Milwaukee Bucks, man. They have won 12 in a row. They have defeated the long-running streak of the TNT Bulls, which has been a streak that's been going on for over a decade, where the Bulls win it on TNT. They lost last night. Giannis has been incredible. And I think he's right up there with Jokic as far as MVP, man. And this is a team that's about to get Jay Crowder back. As long as they stay healthy, this team, it's still my pick to come out the East. Giannis, to me, is by far the best player in basketball, man. So, number 1, Milwaukee Bucks, if they are half game behind Boston for the number 1 seed, man. So, that's going to be a battle that's going to go down to wire. I'm going to wrap this episode up, my Goofy Mog of the Week. And my Goofy Mog of the Week isn't a particular person. It's people in general. Sports fans, sports media. When the fuck did we start policing shit talking when you win a championship? For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this past Tuesday, I think it was Valentine's Day, and Juju Smith-Schuster put out a meme that said, if you ever need somebody to hold you, I will be there. And it was a meme of James Bradbury referring to the holding end zone of the Super Bowl. A.J. Brown didn't like it. He got in his feelings. Basically called Juju a bum, said he was almost out the league. Pat saved you. Which were lies, by the way. Juju is not almost out of the league. And by the way, y'all got me up here defending Juju Smith-Schuster. And if you listen to any one of my podcasts, follow me on Twitter, y'all know I think Juju is bar none the most annoying player in sports. But A.J. Brown got in his feelings. A lot of other Eagles players got in their feelings. And that they just spent 2 weeks telling the Niners to shut the fuck up and deal with it. They doing the same shit. And then you got fans doing the same thing. We got media members talking about read the room. I'm going to give you a quote of an Atlanta philosopher, Future, who said, you do what you want when you pop it. When you win a championship, you can say what the fuck you want for a calendar year. These are the rules. If you don't want Juju Smith-Schuster to talk shit, guess what? Maybe you should have guarded him in the second half. Because it's not like Juju was just riding the bench. This isn't the situation with Melvin Gordon. Shout out to Melvin Gordon for when somebody asked him, what's the difference about being on this team? He said, shit, I got carried. Shout out to him for admitting that. It's not a Melvin Gordon situation. Juju had a great game. Juju had like 7 receptions, 75 yards. He had a big game. He was really one of the main reasons why they won that game in the second half. He balled out. And then to go out there, you talking all this shit, and then when Patrick Mahomes tweets, dude just bored, you delete your fucking tweet. Now you look like a sucker. I feel like what Mike Irvin said, we lose recipes every day, man. You're allowed to talk as much shit as you want. We need to stop policing shit talk, man. That's really what it needs to get down to. Stop this super sensitive ass shit. If you have a problem with Juju saying, guess what? Beat him next year. The Eagles and the Chiefs are on the schedule next year. That might be the home opener. Beat them then, lock them down then, you can talk shit. But when you're the champion, you're able to do what you want. And I thought this was common knowledge. I just don't understand the uproar that I saw on social media this week. Like, give me a fucking break, man. But that's all I got for y'all. Another episode. I'm not gonna hold you. I appreciate everybody watching the show each and every week. Of course, we will not have a show next week. Like I said, there's no NFL. The NBA will still be on break, so there'll be nothing to talk about. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. Get you ready for this last quarter of the NBA season. We're getting ready about a month and a half, about 2 months away from playoff basketball. We're getting ready for the NFL season. NFL off-season, draft, all that. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about coming up, man. But y'all know to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at BarberChairScott. Follow HB Media at HB Media TV on Twitter and at HB Media on Instagram. Follow the Barber's Chair Network at Barber's Chair Net on Twitter and IG, and subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/Barber's Chair Network. 2 new episodes of Cinema with the Guys, new episode of Summer Sessions, all dropping next week. Visit the website, thebcnet.com. I'll holler at y'all in 2 weeks, man. Y'all enjoy All-Star Weekend.
Getting paper on these player haters, old news, money on the other line.